about gospel music, and it's do you live the life that you rap about? Because, you know, even in gangster rap, they found that the people who gangster rap don't live that life. They don't live that life, but they sing about it. Share with me about how living the life is becoming more of a epistle for you or a legacy for you than even talking or rapping about the life.
I think living the life speaks volumes. I think that if no one knew that I was a rap artist or a Christian artist or whatever you want to say, I feel like they could look at my life and say, you know what? He's speaking to me by the way he's moving. He's speaking to me by the way he interacts with someone else. I had someone come to me, and I didn't even realize this, but someone came to me and says, you know what, Cecil, you weren't at work yesterday, and I missed your smile. I'm like, what? Missed my smile? And a lot of times when situations happen, I try to find ways to see the positive out of it. I acknowledge the negative, but I like to view things through my positive shades, especially when I enter work.
Scriptures. When the enemy is telling you lies, you should read Revelation 22:5. Guess what? He will be by your side. That's right.
Welcome to Just Men, a life-changing program that resonates hope as well as encouragement. The program that gives you information and inspiration for the glory of God. I'm your host, Jeff Tate, and thank you for joining Just Men. On today's program, we have a very special guest. This is his first time being on Just Men. Please welcome Mr. Saved by Grace himself, Cecil Raw. Cecil Raw, welcome to Just Men.
Good to see you. Good to be here. Good to
Man,
be here.
it's a tremendous blessing for you to be on our program. Man, I know we got a lot to talk about.
Yes, sir.
I mean, your life is full, man, and so I know that we're going to start on empty, but I know it's going to grow,
Yes,
grow.
sir.
But before we dive into the depths of your life and what you rap about and the spoken word is in your life, share a little bit about who is Mr. Saved by Grace, Cecil Raw.
All right. Cecil Raw was born to parents that weren't born in the United States. My father's from Trinidad and Tobago. My mother was from Guyana, South America. They came here around 77 to go to school on scholarships, and they didn't come prepared to have kids. They already had two, but I wound up coming out as the third child, the youngest of three, and I was born in Huntsville, Alabama, moved here to Nashville shortly after I was born, around 1980, and I was on the south side of Nashville for some time, and then around the age of 10, I moved to East Nashville, and I started to go to school there, and you know, come to find out who I was as a young man growing up in the society today. So.
Wow, it's beautiful. I know that, and it's something that you've already hit the ground running, brother. So talking about identity in terms of who we are, you say coming into who you are. Share a little bit about your background and from your parents' perspective and how you seen your father, what was modeled in front of you in terms of shaping this identity.
Well, both my mother and father had a very strong church background. I was brought up in a church background. My father and my mother were actually Seventh-day Adventists. They instilled in me who Jesus Christ was at a very young age. I was baptized around the age of 10. They were never shy or kept who Jesus Christ was from me. They never let me not know who the source of whatever they needed came from. So I always knew that the food on the table came from the provision of Jesus Christ. I knew that their faith in Jesus was why we had the things that we had.
Yeah, wow, it's good. You know, not a lot of us do not get that kind of experience modeled in front of us in terms of God being the source of our life,
Yes.
you know, and being, as I call, the supply, you
Yes.
know, of everything. And so obviously that has still grows in you.
Yes.
And developing your own family. Talk a little bit about your family now that you done transcend and the baton has been given to you and said, okay, you know, I've done this, son.
Yes.
Now it's time for you to do this. Share a little bit about your own family
Well, I like to consider my mother and father both as prayer warriors, and I think it rubbed off on me. I remember some evenings coming home on a Friday evening, and I would hear my mother on the phone with one of her brothers back home in Guyana, with her sisters in New York, with another sister in Jamaica, with another brother in England, wherever they may be. And on Friday evenings, they'll all get together and pray over the phone. And that meant a lot to me. You know, my mother used to always tell me to pray, and it got to a point where she didn't have to tell me anymore. When I seen her do it, that spoke more volumes than her telling me to do it. So seeing her do it, it was like I just did what she did. She didn't have to ask me anymore. When I seen her pray and seen the faith that she had and the comfort she had once she was done praying, it was like, why do I have to wait for her to ask me to do this? I need to be doing it anyway. So I wanted to mimic what my mother was doing, so I began doing it as well. And now that transcends through me and to my children. So it got to a point where I was trying to get my oldest daughter to pray and read the Bible, and she was doing it to a certain extent, but I noticed that once she walked into the room on a random occasion and seen me in my Bible, that sparked something in her that made her want to read the Bible more. So as a result, I could walk into her room and knock on the door just to see how she was doing, and there it is, she's in her Bible. And I'm like, wow. So it just took her to see me do it, and I didn't have to ask anymore. She was doing it.
What message did they give you out of that?
A lot of people say, do as I say, not as I do, but I don't agree with that saying. So I just feel like even as a parent, we have to hold ourselves accountable to a certain standard. If we want our children to do it, it's nothing wrong with us getting out there and doing it as well, showing them that, hey, I'm not asking you to do something that I haven't done myself or something that I would not do myself.
Now, I know you have a strong support system. I mean, we're going to talk about this cultivation process, because I know it hadn't been easy, brother.
Yes.
I mean, you don't get here, without, it being some type of road or obstacles in your pathway to shape and nurture the gift of God inside of you. And so let's talk about that support group, starting with your family. Who are they?
Well, my support group, it lies firm with my wife. Me and my wife have been together 17 years. We've been married 10. And I would say that I was the curious cat out of my brothers. I'm the youngest of 3, and I gave my mother and father their first grandchild. I didn't do it the way that the word would say I should do it, but I learned that once I've made a mistake or something that might be viewed as a mistake, as long as I acknowledge that and allow God to take over the situation, that he can turn my situation into good. So yes, I had a child out of wedlock. Yes, when I got married, it may have been for the wrong reasons. It may have been because I have a child with this woman, let me marry her. That wasn't my intention, but let's say, for instance, it was to a point where I said, you know what, God, I don't think that I had you involved in the beginning. So let me let you in to take over this and make this out for the better, the way you would have it.
Wow, man, that's beautiful. I mean, we appreciate the candidacy and openness about that transition, because a lot of people do things and they hide behind religion and hide behind the relationship, but not surrender to the relationship. Yes. And so they see the relationship one-sided, as though it's only there for me to get, but not for me to surrender to. And I know that it was through my pain and my surrenderance where I was awakened. It wasn't until I had to reach that point that I surrendered that I became awakened. So that's powerful. And you give credit to your support to your wife. And I know that she came to support you even today. So it just shows you a true testament, because it can't be easy. So let's talk about this journey of you inspired to rap gospel. Go behind the scene with me on that and share a little bit about that walk.
Well, the music first started as music, and it now what it is today is my ministry. But the way it started, I had a friend in my freshman year who I was very close with that had gotten killed, and I wrote a poem that I had planned to say at his funeral. At the time of the funeral, I wasn't strong enough to say the poem, so it just stayed under wraps. No one heard it. And we had to write a poem or some kind of essay as an exit exam in our English class. So I chose to present that poem. At the time that I presented it, a lot of the girls were like, that's sweet, that's sweet. A lot of my buddies were like, make it into a rap, make it into a rap. I'm like, I don't rap. They're like, it's easy, just do it over music. So I started downloading beats and I tried it, and they said that it came natural, it sounded good. So my introduction in the rap was something that was, the first rap that I so-called wrote was something that was heartfelt. It was about a friend that was lost. So it wasn't about the glitz and glamour. However, with me being consumed by that or around that all the time, it gradually became that. So it became to a point where I was doing it for the money, doing it as a means of supporting my family, doing it to get physical things, doing it to get monetary funds. Just it was all about that, and it came to a point where I heard the Lord calling, and I was ignoring it. I was ignoring it at first. I'm like, you can't be talking to me. You're not talking to me, not me, of course. You know, yeah, my dad. If you're talking to him at this age, he probably would listen, but not me. So I began the tug of war, and throughout the tug of war, I came to an understanding that I wasn't going to do music anymore. So I stopped. I stopped altogether and said, if I can't do it for Christ, I'm not going to do it at all. So I figured, since I'm going to misuse it, let's just put it in a drawer and hide this God-given talent instead of using it to uplift this kingdom. I was willing to just not use it at all. The wake-up call came on the morning of on a Christmas morning. Well, a couple of days after Christmas, actually, it was December the 29th of 2005. I was on my way to work and fell asleep behind the wheel, and I flipped my truck 5 times, broke every bone in my left leg. So while on bed rest for 9 months, I don't know why music came to mind, but I was like, you know what? I stopped music, and I think the Lord kept me around for a reason, and I think it's for the music. So I vowed then that if I was going to do music, it would be to uplift this kingdom. And I think that began the transition from my music being music and becoming a ministry. So that's why my slogan, my label is 3-in-1 Ministries, and my slogan is where the ministry is more important than the music.
Wow, man, that's beautiful. Where does Mr. Saved by Grace comes in terms of that name and how that was given, and how does that come in play with music and it becoming ministry?
A lot of times we feel like it's by works that we get the things that God has promised us, and the name Mr. Saved by Grace is just a constant reminder that it's by God's grace that I'm even able to go out and do the things that I'm doing, traveling from state to state and meeting with people who don't know Jesus Christ and letting them know who Jesus Christ is. A lot of times people ask me, Cecil, how's your music doing? I had a conversation with a gentleman who asked me, Cecil, how is your music doing? I said, it's awesome. He says, you must have a lot of record labels calling, huh? I said, no. He's like, well, if you don't have record labels calling, how can you say your music is awesome? How can you say it's going great? I said, because instead of record labels, I have random people calling me, telling me thank you for teaching me who Jesus Christ is, or introducing me to Jesus Christ, or telling me, you know what, I was down the other day and I was listening to track number 7, or I was listening to track number 3. To me, a call from a record label can't match that. So that's where I get my comfort, and that's what lets me know that, hey, you know what, it's by grace that I'm able to do this.
Wow, man, I can hear where your power come from, man. I was listening to your CD, and you know my favorite, number 7, The Light, and in terms of just speaking a word of power, because people need to go beyond being entertained. They need to be changed, and your music talks about change and transformation, not conforming, but being transformed. What inspires those lyrics, man? I mean, where do you come from when you write and when you prepare, even when you prepare before you go before the people?
Well, what I do with my music, since I'm talking about our Almighty Savior, I like to pray before I even write, because I feel like anything that I do that involves Him, He must be really involved, and I feel like I must open up and break down any barriers that might stop me from getting the message that He wants to send through me. I want Him to be able to use me as a vessel. So once I pray and ask the Lord to give me what you want me to send out in the message, it seems like it comes clearer. Whereas at first I was motivated by money. So if I see something on BET, a nice car, that was my motivation. Whereas now my motivation is just to be more pleasing to what God would want me to do.
Wow, it's beautiful. What song resonates in your heart when you look over your track, you know, and the songs you wrote recently in your new release that really resonates, man, and you share behind the scene of why that resonates so much?
I would say the first track, You Better Believe It, because a lot of times we say that the Lord's coming back, but we don't live like He's coming back. So I open up with this song a lot when I do shows, just to let everybody know, you better believe He is coming back. And I think that sets the tone for the message that I'm trying to speak. I've even been criticized from other Christian artists that say I say God too much. And I'm like, that's what our music is about. When it was about hustling, nobody said anything about me saying I hustle too much. So why is it a problem that I say God too much, which I don't think I say God enough, quite frankly. So you better believe it. And I think after I get through opening with that, it's no doubt the message that I'm trying to send to the audience who's listening to it.
Yeah. In your music, how would you differentiate? Like, I know a lot of artists who actually, man, what words of encouragement would you have for the people, man, in terms of just this walk with God and this union with Him?
Let's put Christ back in everything. Let's put Christ back in everything. I turn around every day. I turn around, I hear happy holidays, and it's like people forget what the real meaning of Christmas is, and I wouldn't want nobody to say, hey, Cecil, instead of happy birthday to you, we're going to call this just a happy holiday. We're not going to direct it towards you. We're not going to say happy birthday, Cecil. We're just going to say happy holidays. I mean, it doesn't make sense, and it wouldn't be sufficient enough. So why do we feel like it's sufficient to say happy holidays versus Merry Christmas? It's a sweet sound. We just keep saying it.
Yeah.
Put Christ back in everything.